All right. Thanks everybody for joining me. We'll go ahead and get started here. If you got a question, either post it below the video if you're on a mobile device, or it's going to be to the right of the video if you are on like a normal laptop or desktop computer. I always start with questions that were up to or asked up to an hour before. So if you're on here, I'm going to be starting with Tim F today. So Michael H, Chris H, Andre P. If you're on here and you'd like to get your questions answered, just go ahead and repost your question, copy and paste it in there. The only reason why I do that is I just want to make sure that I'm answering questions for people who are here to see them get answered. I can assume, I can safely assume that people who are on here less than an hour ago are probably still here just waiting to get their answer, get their question answered. If someone posts their question yesterday afternoon, it's most likely that, they're not here watching this. So if you do happen to be, just copy and paste it up there and we'll get it answered. So like I said, we'll start here with Tim F. Tim F says, is it possible to be flipping at impact yet have a reasonably decent straight line release? You can be on the threshold and have a little bit of a flip and have a straight line release that's not exactly where you want to be, but pretty close. Yes and no, I guess. If you have a good straight line release, that we talk about, where you're releasing the club about 45 degrees out in front, you're not going to be flipping at impact, because forward shaft lean is a product of having a good release. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what that is, when we're talking about the straight line release, we're talking about where I'm losing all my angles after contact. So where this club is now splitting my forearms after contact. So if you look right here, this club is splitting my forearms, where it's bisecting my forearms after contact. I've lost all the angles. I've released the club. So that's about 45 degrees out in front. If I rewind this to impact, now you can see I have forward shaft lean here at contact. I have the hands in front of the golf ball. If I were to be releasing the club about right here, right, 10 degrees out in front, this is not what I'd be call a decent straight line. I would say a decent straight line release would be maybe 30 degrees out in front. That's like the low end of where you see some tour players. But pretty much all of them are going to be in that 40, 45 degrees, somewhere in that range. But you will see some that are around that 30 to 35 degree range. I would call that decent, right? And if you rewind those folks to impact, they're going to have a little less forward shaft lean. If you take someone who's releasing the club basically right here, just after contact, you rewind them to impact, and that's what they look like. They don't have the shaft is barely leaning forward at all. I even see players who are releasing right at impact or even before impact. So those are the players that are going to be losing a lot of compression on the golf ball because the shaft isn't leaning forward. You're adding loft to the face, which is going to add, it's basically like hitting a pitching wedge when you're actually hitting an 8-iron, right? You're going to lose a lot of distance when you do that. So I guess the question, the cut and dry answer, I would say, is no. But maybe if you're somewhere in the middle, you can be a little bit flippy and then be in the 30 degree range. But if you have a good straight line release, no, you won't be flipping. So David H says, frustrated. I can't seem to get my low point to be past the ball. TrackMan numbers confirm this. Close to A, but always a B. Otherwise, I am decent on the course. 9.3 index. I watched the early extension videos series again, and will work on those, and have worked on my trail elbow, leading the club head to impact. Any other suggestions? The main thing here is your compression line. That's really controls that low point, is mostly that compression line and the way that you release the club. So an earlier release is going to lead to an earlier low point. So if you imagine, if I'm here and I release it, I'm going to be putting that club into the ground back here. If I'm here and I have a later release, I'm going to be hitting the ground a lot later, and that low point's going to happen more out in front. So you may want to work on your straight line release a little bit. The main thing, though, is our compression line. So our compression line is the line that goes from my lead ankle, lead hip, and lead shoulder. When you see tour players with an iron, what you're going to see is that line is going to be either pretty vertical or very slightly angled away from the target. I'm talking a few degrees. It really depends on if they have a lot of rotation and a later release, they may be able to be more angled away. But less rotation, earlier release. We need to have that more angled forward to get that low point more forward. So if you're at contact and you're kind of like this, too far angled away, you want to get your lead shoulder more forward. Get that weight shift moving forward. Load up properly. Get that good weight shift to the lead side. You may need to feel, this is not the reality, but you may need to feel like you're really sliding forward and getting your shoulder ahead when that's not really what's going on, right? So one thing you can do is you can put some tees on the ground, all right? So pretend these golf balls are tees. Put a couple tees in the ground, about a 1/4 inch out of the ground, about 4 inches apart, just like this. Set up to the first tee as if it was the golf ball that you were going to hit, and then just take some swings where you go back, you miss that first tee, and then you come down and you hit that second tee. If you look, in order for me to do that, I've really got to get my compression line moving forward. So set up there, hit some shots, moving more forward. Once you start to get a better feeling for that, move that out of the way and try to have that same sensation. Hit this golf ball while trying to feel like I'm getting more forward in the swing, just like I was clipping that tee in front. And that will help you get that low point moving forward. Intuitively, you'll get your compression line more forward when you do that. So go ahead and give that a try. See if that helps out. John N says, hello Q. I started with a 20-minute speed drill. My club head speed went up 10 miles per hour, but so did my handicap, up 10 strokes. I'm out of balance, tense, rushing the downswing, all arms swinging the club head instead of the body, and moving ahead in the swing. How do I undo the damage? Well, I wouldn't say that you did damage. I mean, the 20-minute distance fix is not going to do damage to your swing. You probably are trying to take your 100% effort swing to the golf course. And that's not what we're trying to do with the 20-minute distance fix. All we're trying to do is get your club head speed to go up. So there's no real damage. There's no it takes a long time to change a motor movement. You probably just need to loosen up the grip a little bit. You're probably holding it like a gorilla grip. Loosen up the grip a little bit. Basically, you want to feel like you're holding the grip as lightly as you possibly can while still being able to control it, right? So loosen up the grip a little bit. You don't need to, hold it as tightly as you can. Loosen up the grip a little bit. Feel like you're a little bit more free flowing, and your club head speed's going to go up, even with if you don't feel like you're swinging with 100% effort, because that's the way that gaining club head speed works. It's neural adaptation. You're going to change what you're feeling. Just get a bigger range of motion, feel more free flowing, and it should help out quite a bit. But I guarantee you probably didn't do any damage. You're probably just trying to swing out of your shoes. You're trying to do distance training while you're playing golf, and that's not the same thing. You're doing distance training out on the range when there's no consequence of hitting a bad shot. You're trying to up your club head speed. When you go out on the course, you got to play with your playing speed, and Clay talks about that in the 20-minute distance fix. So just slow things down a little bit. Get your proper range of motion, loosen up the grip a little bit, be a little bit more free flowing, and you'll be right back where you were with probably more speed because of some of the neural adaptation that you've taken on working through the course. Chris H says, I'm getting great results using the straight line release with my 3 and 5 fairway woods. However, when it comes to driver, contact, and shots are inconsistent. In fact, sometimes I'm hitting my 3 wood further than my driver. Any tips and suggestions to get my driver working better? Sounds like you're probably just not hitting in the center of the face. It's hard to say without seeing your swing. Most likely you're not doing really anything different with your driver versus your 3 or your fairway wood or anything like that. You're probably just not hitting it in the center of the face. So what I'd recommend doing is getting some impact tape, putting that on the face and see where you're striking on the face, and then adjust your feel to get the desired result that you want. So that what that means is if you notice that all your strikes are out on the toe or on the heel or vice versa, right? Then if all your strikes are in the heel, then you need to try to feel like you're hitting it in the toe to get that strike more in the center of the face. That's what I would recommend doing. Like I said, it's hard for me to know what's going on without seeing your swing, but most likely you're not doing anything different between those fairway woods and your driver. It's just the contact on the face probably isn't very good. The club is longer, so it's harder to control. So you may be, I'm guessing you're just mishitting it. Would be my best guess, but it's hard for me to know. Let's see here. All right. So Jeffrey C says, I went to a club fitter and discovered my iron shafts are too weak for my swing speed. Until I fork over the money required to reshaft or replace my irons, do you have any recommendations for swing tweaks to slow down my swing without sacrificing accuracy? I have Project X shafts and I swing my 7-iron right at 100 miles per hour. The fitter put me in True Temper X7 shafts, and it was night and day. You probably I would choke up. If you choke up on the club, it makes it a little bit stiffer. So that may help if you just choke up on the club a little bit. Thomas J says, hi Q, similar to question below on 3-wood versus driver. I'm really able to nail my 3-wood with a nice draw and can draw the rest of my clubs. But with my driver, I feel like I'm all over the place. I really do struggle to hit a draw on a regular basis without hooking. I go from push, slice, big hook. I tried a nice power fade. I can do this fairly regularly. So you're probably just not hitting it in the center of the face. It's hard for me to know without seeing what's going on, guys. I wish I could. I wish I would knew, but you probably just need to work on hitting it more in the center of the face. So use that impact tape. See what's going on. You may try, just like what I talked about with Jeffrey, choking up on the club a little bit makes the shaft a little bit stiffer. So what you can do is choke up on it to give you a little bit more control of the club head, and maybe you'll find you'll get more center face strikes and hit the ball further doing that. That would be my best guess on the situation. So it kind of stinks about these office hours, a lot of these questions that I get, I wish I could help more, but unfortunately, it's impossible for me to know exactly what's going on without actually seeing what's going on. I don't have any idea why you're hitting your driver worse than your 3-wood, but I can tell you what my best guess is, and my best guess is that you just don't have control with it because it's a longer club. You're not hitting it in the center of the face. Use some impact tape. Use some foot powder spray. Spray it on the club face, see where you're striking it on the club face. That's most likely what the issue is. You're probably hitting your 3-wood solid, and you're hitting your driver on the toe, on the heel, low on the face, in places on the face where you're not going to get very good results. So that's what I would recommend doing. Thomas J says, as a follow-on, could this also be my equipment? It's possible. It's possible. If you're not fitted for your clubs, it's possible that could be, the driver is too long for you. It's not the right weight, and so on and so forth. There's lots of possibilities there. It could be, getting a driver with a shorter shaft or something like that may help with the control. I've seen people that swing drivers that are shorter, faster. Clay plays, I think it's a 46-inch driver, 46 and a half. And I play a 44 and a half. I think it is. So his driver is 2 inches longer than mine, but I actually swing mine faster than his driver. So I know that can maybe not make the most sense because, you always think longer lever arm, more speed, which in general is definitely true, but that's if I'm putting the same amount of force into it. So if I'm not able to put the same amount of force into his driver as I am to mine, I'm putting significantly a lot more force into mine, then I'm able to create more speed. I actually have pretty long arms for my height. So in general, people who have longer arms are going to do a little bit better with shorter drivers, whereas those with shorter arms may do better with longer drivers. Sorry, I was getting some public service thing on my cell phone. Sorry about that. So Philip says, "Hi Q, I've practiced the whole TSGS, including the BSMC, and now swing is technically really good now. However, I have too many mishits and want to ask if there are specific drills to improve skill level and I don't know that word, propriorization. I don't know that word. You got me with that one. But anyway, the ball striking masterclass. I mean, if your swing is technically sound, then the ball striking masterclass is really all you need to work on. So those of you who aren't familiar with what the ball striking masterclass is, it's really where we work on impact. So specifically, I'd be looking at the big four, what pieces of the big four you are struggling with, and I'd be working on those pieces. So if it's strike location, I would do that test. We do that test in the pre-program test. I would do that test and see your current level of where you're striking on the face, your ability to hit fades and draws and things like that. And if you're at a high level with it, then what you need to do is you need to go through and you need to make the drills more difficult so that you can continue to improve with them. So sometimes we may have a drill where you have to alternate hitting draws and fades at a specific target. Maybe it's a 20-yard wide green, right? Well, if the task is to get 3 draws and 3 fades alternating, and you go 6 for 6, you hit your draw, you hit your fade, and you're perfect, right? Within, basically on that 20-yard wide green, then what you need to do is you need to make it more difficult by either using a longer club. Typically we say use a mid iron. That might be a 7-iron. Maybe use a 5-iron. See how well you do with that. Make the target size smaller. So instead of a 20-yard wide green, make it a 10-yard wide green. Instead of any amount of fade, it has to be a certain amount of fade. It has to be, you can say that it has to be no more than a 5-yard fade, but no less than, it has to be between 2 and 5 yards, or fade and draw between both of those. If you have one that's a 10-yard fade, then it wouldn't count. There's just all kinds of ways to make it more difficult. So that's what I would recommend doing, is work through that ball striking masterclass again. Focus on the pieces of the big four that you struggle with the most. And if the drills in the ball striking masterclass are not difficult enough and you just nail them, then you just need to make them more difficult. Basically, the course, the way that it's set up with the drills, it's set up for someone who's about a middle handicapper, right? So if you're a base, which would be about a 15 handicapper, if you're a 15 handicapper or below, let's say you're a single digit handicapper, you should find some of the drills somewhat easy. Now, it's all based on, you being average at everything. Maybe you're really good at striking it in the center of the face, but really bad at controlling the direction the club face is pointing. Well, the face angle drills you might find to be difficult, and the center strike drills you may find to be too difficult, or may find to be really easy. So you just have to work through it, make it more difficult as you go along. But I would recommend, if you're technically sound, then the ball striking masterclass is really where you want to be for sure, as well as the distance course, the 20-minute distance fix, upping your speed, taking that good technically sound swing and adding speed to it is just going to make it even better. Because those are basically the 3 pillars of where you want to be. You have your technique, which is the top speed golf system. You have your ball striking, which is the ball striking masterclass, and then you have your speed, which is the 20-minute distance fix course. Those are the 3 areas where you want to put in the work to improve your game for sure. So Chris H says, I'm getting great results using the straight line release with my 3-wood. Comes a driver. All right, so we already answered that one. Ed M says, I took a video of my swinging slow and easy. Then I look at my video of my swinging very fast. Slow swing looked good, showing more lag and better straight line release. Faster swing showed major early release and flipping. Is this typical of people who cast? I suppose. I mean, things when you swing slow, you're able to feel things a lot more easily. When you swing faster, it takes away feel, right? So yeah, I mean, I would say that you're typically going to be able to do things better slower, but you have to find that threshold, that that point, the happy medium where you're getting good lag and forward shaftling and you have good speed, right? So I would much rather you find that happy medium than just swing fast and hit the ball with an early release and you hit the ball a mile up in the air, where it's just too spinny, it doesn't go anywhere into the wind. So you got to find that happy medium that works for you. But the more that you work on getting some good lag and getting a better release, the faster you'll be able to go with it as you get better and better with it. So just find that happy medium and then try to add the speed to it by working on that, working on those courses on the Toss Speed Golf system. So Ed M says, problem is the fast cast swing gives more yards than a slow lag swing. So you're probably not, you may be getting lag, but your straight line release may not be. You're probably, if you could be casting, you could be having lag, but then still releasing the club early at the golf ball. So if that's the case, then I would use the cast swing and then work on getting lag with a fast swing. So Thomas O says, I hit my driver and rescue fairly well, but my 3-wood is a problem. I never get to turn over and goes right mostly. So sounds like you're having trouble closing the face with that. So what I would try to feel like, well, one, what I would do, what may help instantly is with your 3-wood is I would strengthen your grip a little bit. What that means is take your hands and rotate them on the grip like this. So this would be a weak grip. And then if I take my hands and I turn my thumb to be more on the side of the grip or more on this side of the grip, right? If you're right-handed, that'd be turning your hands clockwise on the grip. That's going to strengthen the grip, and that's going to make it easier to close the face as I'm coming into contact. That's the first thing that I would try. That's going to help you to close the face a little bit. The next thing that I would try, if you strengthen the grip and it still goes off to the right, what I'd recommend doing is trying to get that club face squared up earlier in the swing. So basically, I always feel like this club head is in the takeaway here is pointed down at the target line. So if I have a little angle finder here, so I put that on the club head. If I bring this back, I want to feel like that's staying pointed down toward the target line. If I roll that face open like this, that face is going to be open. It's going to be harder for me to close it in the downswing. So feel like it's staying pointed down to the target line. And I get to the top, and then the downswing, I'm going to feel that same thing. I'm going to feel like I'm getting that club head, that club face pointed down toward the target line. Try to get some balls to really start left. Really roll the hands over hard through contact. See if you can get some shots to start way to the left, and that can help you to get that face closed. You can always ease off of it once you overdo something. So like I said, first thing, strengthen that grip. Second thing, I try to feel like I'm keeping that club face closed throughout the swing. So I'm closing it in the backswing. I'm getting the face pointed down to the target line. And then the downswing, same thing. I'm feeling that face coming down the target line. And even when I come through contact, I want to feel like my lead hand is on top of the club as I'm coming through. That's going to get that face nice and closed as I'm coming through. So Alton G says, having trouble taking a divot in front of the ball. So that's a very common problem. What I would recommend doing is working on our stop, chunking, and topping courses. Our stop, chunking, and topping course is a course that's included in your membership. So in that course, what Clay talks about is getting loaded up properly and then getting that proper weight shift to the lead side. This is the biggest reason why I see people have trouble getting that divot in front of the golf ball. So if we're not loading up properly, meaning when I start this backswing, I'm not loading up on my trail foot. Maybe you have what's called a reverse pivot, where we actually load up on that lead foot. And then what happens, because I've loaded up on that lead foot, I'm going to tend to want to fall away in the downswing. So it's kind of a reverse pivot. I loaded up here, and then I pivot off my trail foot, and I end up coming back and hitting the ground before the golf ball. I can't get that divot in front. So what we want to do is we want to load up, get behind the golf ball as we're loading up, and then get our weight shift moving forward. So now that we're loaded up, now we got to get that weight shift. And that's also what we talk about in the in the stop chunking and topping course. Maybe you're loading up properly, right? But you just don't shift your weight. You just start to throw your arms and you don't get that weight moving to the lead side. So we got to load up, get that weight moving to the lead side. And that's going to allow you to get that divot out in front of the golf ball. And that's all going to be worked on in the stop chunking and topping course. Again, this is a course that's included with your membership. To get to the course, all you have to do is click the house icon. That's going to take you to the home page. If you scroll down the home page, you'll see a list of all the courses that we offer on the website. And you'll see the bonus course there, stop chunking and topping. Start getting loaded up, get behind the golf ball, get that weight shift to your lead side, start taking those divots in front of the golf ball and start making better contact. All right, so Robbie G says, just completed 3.3 BSMC. What should be the perfect contact with the ball? I didn't have any problems with this drill. Makes a change. I always aim to the ball, but should I try to an imagined object in front of me? Compression. Guess I'm not really sure exactly what you're asking. Just completed 3.3. What should be the perfect contact with the ball? Robbie, I'm not really sure what you're asking, to be honest. What should be the perfect contact with the ball? I mean, perfect contact would be center of the face, right? Square club face, not hitting the ball, not hitting the ground first, so ball first contact. And then a club path would be zeroed out. That would be perfect contact. I'm not really sure. If I'm not answering your question, try answering it or asking it in a different way. I'm not really sure what you're asking there. So Chris H says, so again, I answered that one already, Chris. Mark Z says, I lift up on my backswing. Is there a drill to keep my head down? Yes. So what I recommend is something called the shoulder drill. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a club and you're going to put it right across your shoulders. Now put it nice and high up here on the shoulders. I don't want it in your elbow pits or on your chest, because if you do that, you can move your arms and manipulate this and do whatever you want with it. Get it nice and high up there on your shoulders. You should be going right across your collarbone there. And what you're going to do, you're going to put that on your shoulders and you're going to try and keep this angled down as you go up to the top. So if you watch here, I'm going to try and keep this butt end of the club angled down as I go up to the top. So I'm feeling that lead shoulder go down, kind of underneath my chin, right? Because if you're coming up like this, what's happening with my shoulders? They're getting leveled out, right? And my head will probably have to turn this way, and I won't be able to see the golf ball. That's extreme. You may not be going that extreme, but we want to get that going down as we're going up to the top, more down toward the golf ball. So go down, get that kind of feeling there, get that feeling of it going down. Now let's take the club, and I'm going to replicate that same feeling where I'm feeling that shoulder go down. So my left shoulder goes down, my right shoulder goes up. That's the feeling that I'm going to have as I'm going up to the top of the swing. Work on that. That's going to help you get that shoulder to be working down the right place. There's also a great visual that I like to think of. If you haven't read Ben Hogan's 5 Lessons, it's a decent book with some good stuff in it. And he talks about one thing that I really picked up from that book. He talks about the plane of glass. And what he said was that he imagined that there was a plane of glass that went from his head down to the golf ball. And it was just a plane of glass that sat on top of his shoulders there. And he imagined that in the backswing that he rotated his shoulders on that plane of glass. So try that feeling a little bit as well and see if that helps you. So Darren O says, have started topping my driver. It's driving me crazy. Send help, please. So topping your driver, what's most likely going on there when you're topping your driver is that the club is bottoming out and then working up too much into the golf ball. So here's our golf ball. We're coming down and the club is working too much up into the golf ball. The other thing that could be going on is that you could be coming down steep. So what that means, you may be coming over the top and shifting too much forward, and this club is now coming down steep and over the top of the golf ball. That's a less likely scenario, but it's a possible scenario. You just want to look at your swing and see what's going on. Now, if you're someone who is coming, it's clubs bottoming out, you're hanging back and the club's working up too much, then you need to make sure that you get to your lead side. You can't hang back on your trail side. I see this a lot because people are trying to get that club to get that upward angle of attack on the golf ball. And what we want to do is when we're trying to get that upward angle of attack on the golf ball, we need to get a weight shift and we need to rotate and work and get that club to work up into the golf ball. What I see a lot of people do is instead of getting the shift forward and then rotating and pushing off, right, pushing into the ground, pushing back to stay behind it, what they end up doing is they get here and they try to get behind it by just falling back and throwing the hands at it. And when you do that, you're going to end up with those top drives like you're talking about. So make sure that you are getting that proper weight shift to your lead side and that you're pushing off the ground and rotating your back hip out of the way and staying behind the golf ball that way. And that's going to allow you to get that club working into the ball properly. You also may have the ball too far forward in your stance. If you play the ball too far forward in your stance, then that may lead to that club bottoming out too early, and then the bottom of the club working in the golf ball. So all things to look at. Now, if you are someone who's coming down steep and chopping down into the golf ball, then you need to probably work on your spine angle and get your spine angle more angled away so that you can get that club working up into the golf ball. People who come over the top and down like that, their spine angles look more like this as they're coming into contact instead of more like this, like we talk about in the Top Speed Golf system. So you may want to work on the stable fluid spine course and get your spine angle more angled away, working up into the golf ball. If you're someone who's coming down like this, it may not be that bad. You may just have that ball too far back in your stance as well, and that's causing you to top it. So these are all things, you just got to look at your swing. Like I said, it's hard for me to know exactly what's going on without seeing your swing, but these are all things you may want to look at in your swing and see if those are the things that are going on. So James Evans says, I don't know if you answered my question before. I'm hitting the ball down the center, and just before the ball stares down, it slices to the right. What am I doing or not doing to have this happen? So whatever's happening there is just an appearance of what's going on. Golf balls don't go through the air straight and then all of a sudden take a turn, right? The ball is, if it does happen, it's because of wind. It's because maybe it hits something in the air. But I'm guessing your ball isn't hitting like a bird in the air or something like that all the time. So if you're hitting a slice, then that's purely from the face being open to the club path. So the best way to fix any issue is to exaggerate the opposite. A slice is because the face is open to the path. What's the opposite? The face being closed to the path. How do I get the face closed to the path? I'm going to swing out to the right with a closed club face. That's what I'd recommend doing. Swing out to the right with a closed club face. That's going to be the easiest way to do that. If the ball is really far, I don't know how far you're playing the ball up in your stance, but if you have the ball really far up in your stance, it can make it difficult to get that club working from the inside. So it may help to move a ball back or two in the stance to help you get that club working more from the inside. You want to look at your spine angle. Like I talked about before, if your spine angle is vertical, you're going to want to come out over the top. Get your spine angle more angled away. It's going to make it easier to swing that club from the inside. So those are a couple things that you can look at. Strengthening your grip and rolling the hands over more can help you get the club face more closed. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but what you need to do is get the club face close to the path. Get to where you're hitting some big old hooks. Once you get that, then all you have to do is ease off of it to get it to straighten out. Don't be afraid to overdo something. Don't be afraid to overdo something to get to fix the result. You don't try to do exactly what you want to do. Overdo the opposite, then ease off it. It's so much easier to do that and so much faster as well. Don C says, I've improved club head speed to 103 miles per hour. Should I be using regular stiff flex shaft for driver? It's really impossible for me to say. The only way to know for sure is to go and get professionally fitted. The thing is like, one company's regular flex shaft could be just as stiff as another company's stiff flex shaft. There's no basically spec for how stiff shafts have to be. And like I said, another company's extra stiff shaft could be like another company's regular flex shaft. So there's really no way to know. The only way I would say is I would go, if you're interested in getting a new driver and you think that getting a new driver or changing the shaft out in the driver you have can make a big difference, I would go to a professional fitter and hit several shots with your driver, have them switch it up and see if it makes any kind of difference for you. But that's really the only way to know. I wish I could just tell you, oh yeah, you need a stiff or a regular or an extra stiff or senior flex or whatever. But unfortunately, there's no way for me to know unless I actually got you on a launch monitor and we tried all kinds of different shafts. That's really the only way to know for sure. So Bruce F says, I've noticed that if I kick my right knee in, basically keep it there, my ball flight is higher. I'm still getting over to the left side. Do you know why I have this happen? So basically the way that you hit the ball higher is one, with your loft, right? And then two would be with speed. So whichever one of those is happening, those would be the main things that would make the ball go up higher. So maybe you're adding loft to it, releasing the club a little bit early. Not really sure how that would be connected to kicking the right leg in. But maybe it's making you release the club a little bit earlier. It's hard to say, but I'd look at your swing on video and see what's going on there. Maybe it's helping you hit the ball with more speed. That could be the case as well. Because if you hit the ball on the same trajectory, right, it starts on the same trajectory, but with more speed, it will keep climbing through the air. So it will get a little bit higher. So that's the other thing that could be happening. But again, I'm not really sure how that would necessarily be related to the right knee kicked in. I'm not really sure how that would be related. So David C says, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on how to transition from playing golf swing, i.e. working on particular aspects like sharing the club, to playing golf. My experience with swing thoughts, other than maybe balance and tempo, has not been very productive. Thanks. Yeah, when you're out playing golf, the fewer the swing thoughts, the better. Your goal is to get the golf ball in the hole, right? So the fewer the distractions, the fewer the swing thoughts, the better. Typically, when you hear about players playing their best rounds, they don't have a swing thought that they're necessarily going after. They're just going out there basically unconsciously and playing great golf. They're thinking about how to get the ball to go where they need it to go. They're not thinking about keeping their left arm straight or what they're doing with their elbow or things like that. So that's really what it comes down to. So the only time I would really use a swing thought on the course is if it actually helps you get the ball to where you need it to go. And I would only really recommend one swing thought or two swing thoughts tops. And if you are doing two swing thoughts, it can be a backswing thought and a downswing thought. You can't do two downswing thoughts. If the downswing happens in about a quarter of a second, you don't have time to think about two things. And some people aren't going to be able to do two swing thoughts in a backswing and a downswing, in each one either. So it really depends on the person. The backswing's happening a little bit slower, so it's a little bit easier. It's possible you could have two swing thoughts, but you can't ever do them at the same time, right? So maybe you can have a swing thought in the beginning of the swing and then in the last part of the backswing, but it's still really, really difficult. Thing is that you need to focus on hitting the golf ball, right? If you focus too much internally on what your body is doing, it's going to take away from the external focus, which is what's happening with the club and the ball. And that's really the most important thing. So when you're out on the course, you need to be focusing on impact, what's going on in impact, and how to get that golf ball to go where you need it to go. That's the number one priority. Meant to say, oh, okay. So Robbie G says strong and weak grip is both hands hold club together. I feel left hand is neutral, but right hand is stronger. Do they need to be together, i.e. both strong? Okay, so Robbie, I'm guessing you're working on the weak and strong grip drill. Yeah. So you need to turn. It's basically just taking whatever your normal grip is and then just making it stronger. So if your normal grip, now typically, you're just taking your trail hand and that crease between your thumb, that crease between the pads of your hand, you're putting that right on the thumb of your trail hand, or your lead hand. Sorry. So that's what's going on there. Some people might have a very strong trail hand grip or a very weak trail hand grip. That's fine. You're just taking your whole entire grip unit and making it weaker or stronger. It's fine if you have a stronger weak hand or a stronger trail hand or a weaker trail hand. What it comes down to is you're just taking your whole grip and making it stronger or weaker for the drill. You're not just taking one hand. If you normally have a strong grip with your trail hand, and you go from your normal grip to a stronger grip, you need to have your trail hand really, really strong, then about as strong as possible if that's the case, right? You don't keep it in the same spot, but take the whole grip and shift it where it needs to be for the drill. So Robbie G says drill was having a small object 4 inches in front of the ball and hit through a ball and hit object. Is this feeling I should aim for to have compression and take divot in front of the golf ball? If it helps you get compression and get divot in front of the golf ball, then yes. Feel is relative. So if hitting behind the golf ball, if you feel like hitting 4 inches behind the golf ball helps you actually get the divot in front of the golf ball, then that's what you should do. If feeling like you're hitting 4 inches in front of the golf ball helps you to get the divot at the golf ball, then that's what you should do. So it just depends. Feeling is relative. You just use the feeling that gives you the best results. Daniel A says, I am in week 2 of the 20-minute distance fix, 5 handicap. I've heard conflicting opinions on the roll of the right hand after the club, which is parallel in the downswing, and hands are at about hip level. Please elaborate. So the best way I can describe it, it's like pitching sidearm. So I'm letting this, about in this area is where I'm letting that go. So if you imagine, if I'm right here, if I'm pitching sidearm and I'm trying to throw a ball at a target out there, right? I'm opening up just like I would be in the golf swing. I'm opening up. I'm getting down to this area here. I'm opening up, and that's pretty close to where I'm releasing and letting it go. So you probably still have some pressure like right in this area, and that's about where that club's going to be parallel to the ground. But from there, I'm really letting it go. So that's the feeling, is that I'm going like that. What most amateurs are doing is they're here and they're letting it go right there, right? So clubs parallel to the ground more in this area before they're getting to the legs, and that's an early release of the club. What you want to be is you want to have that feeling that you're releasing out here, that you're sidearm throwing the ball out there. You're letting it go. So that pressure is going to be more as you're coming through contact because you're letting go with that trail hand. That pressure is going to be more in the lead hand because that's what you need to have it. You're going to feel it mostly in these first 3 fingers. Your pinky, ring, and middle finger. You're going to feel most of that pressure right there in those fingers. And it's going to feel like you're letting go, just like you were throwing a golf ball, a ball sidearm. That's the feeling that you're going to have as you're going through contact. But again, feel is relative, like I was talking about. So it may feel like you're doing this, but the reality may be that you're going like this. So you may need to feel like you're throwing a ball sidearm way up in the air, or you may need to feel like you're throwing a ball sidearm out to the right. So use the feeling that gives you the best results. But what literally needs to be happening is you need to have that feeling that you need to have the ball releasing out here, the hands releasing out there like that. So literally what's happening is it's bent back, and then it's letting it go kind of in that area. And then the hand, it's going to be very, very light as the club's releasing that's where it's going to be very, very light because you just let it go through contact. So James N says, recently read that TrackMan data shows that PGA Tour average angle of attack with driver is about 1 or 2 degrees negative. I'm curious why that'd be down instead of up on the ball, like is so prevalently encouraged with TSG and other systems. So that's a good question. I don't 100% know why that is, but I can tell you why I think that is. So a couple things. When you hit the ball dead in the center of the club face, or when you hit the ball solid all the time, it's not as important to have that angle of attack to be perfect, right? You can hit down on the golf ball a little bit and it won't make a huge difference. This is also going to help them be a little bit more accurate with the amount of speed that they have. So because it adds a little bit more spin, which makes it easier. If you're someone who misses the center of the face a lot, you're adding spin because you're missing the center of the face. And if you're hitting down on it, you're just adding more spin because of that. Now, also keep in mind, 1 or 2 degrees down is not very much. That's pretty much dead level. 1 degree or 1 minute on a clock is 6 degrees. So that makes it, it's a very, very small sliver of that. One other thing to consider is that with the amount of speed that tour players have, when they hit up on the golf ball a lot, when we're talking like 3 to 5 degrees up on the golf ball goes pretty darn high typically. So a lot of tour players don't like to see the golf ball that high. They don't like to see the golf ball go above the tree line. So it actually it's a little bit more lower controllable ball flight. Someone who is swinging in the 90s or the low hundreds is going to be needs to hit level or up on the golf ball because it's just going to be more distance. It's going to lower the spin, which is going to allow them to be more accurate. Whereas a tour player, they already have low spin because they hit the ball so solid and they hit the ball so far that the ball's already going high enough that they don't need to do that. So that's basically what it comes down to. RD says, should one concentrate on modules, drills exclusive before playing on the course? Thanks for all your shares. It's really personal preference. Personally, I like to play golf, so I'm going to be doing both. If I am working on my game, but hey, if you're someone who really likes to practice and isn't about playing that much, then you may prefer to work on drills and modules instead. It's really personal preference. So David John G says Quentin, but didn't have a question, it looks like. David W says, hey Q, could you talk about a full swing with wedge versus less than a full swing with pitching wedge or 9-iron? Thanks. In terms of accuracy. Well, a full swing with a wedge is going to have more spin because it has more loft, right? But in terms of accuracy, not necessarily one's going to be more accurate than the other. It's more about spin. So if you're hitting into a green and you're afraid of it maybe spinning off of the green, maybe it's a green that has a slope on it, and if you hit a wedge on it, it would just spin off there. It may be better to hit a shorter swing with a pitching wedge so that it would have less spin on it because you're going to have less loft. The less loft is going to be less spin. You're going to hit it with less speed, and you're also it's going to have an angle of descent that's a little bit flatter. So it's going to hold the green maybe a little bit better. Whereas maybe you're playing on a very hard green and it's going to be hard to hold the green because it's so firm. And maybe you've got a pin that's kind of in the back of the green and you need to get some spin on this golf. You need it to hold the green. So while hitting a wedge back there may be the best way because you're going to hit it with more speed, with more loft. That's going to give you more spin. It's also going to give you more height, right? Which means it's going to come down. The angle of descent is going to be steeper, so it's going to be more likely to hold the green. So that's really what it comes down to when you're choosing to hit those kinds of shots. But accuracy wise, all things equal, not one's more accurate than the other. But yeah, that's basically what would be the difference, I would say. So John G says, Quentin, do you have any thoughts on taking range practice to the course? I seem to hit the ball well on the range with a swing thought, but can't seem to find the swing key on the course. So yeah, so in general, you're always going to hit the ball better on the range because when you're on the range, there's no other distractions essentially. You're always hitting off of a perfect lie. You're always hitting off, especially if you're hitting off of a mat. You're always hitting on a level lie, right? You're hitting the same club a lot of times over and over and over. You're getting in a groove, things of that nature. On the course, right? There could be pressure on the situation. There's time between shots. You're hitting different clubs between shots. You may have a lie that's in the rough. You have a lie that's in the fairway. Ball above your feet, below the feet, downhill lie, uphill lie. There's a lot of variables going on there. So just in general, you're always going to hit the ball better on the range. Now, what you can do to make this a little bit better is make your range practice closer to what your practice is out on the golf course. And the way to do that is to essentially, and this is something that I like to do with the last 30 balls or so. If I'm practicing hitting a lot of golf balls, if I have 25, 30 balls left, I have some time, I'll play 9 holes in my head on the course. So what I'll do is I'll visualize, be a course that I would know pretty well. I visualize the course in front of me, and then I would just go through and hit the shots. So let's say the first hole, say it's a 400-yard par 4, dog leg left. It'd be a draw shot. I would visualize the hole in front of me. I visualize where I'm starting the golf ball, and then I would walk in. I'd do my whole routine. I'd walk in. I'd hit the shot, and if I hit a good one, then maybe I would have 100 yards in or so, and then I would hit a wedge shot on my next one. And the cool part is that if you imagine that you hit the green, you make all the putts, right? So you just pick up the ball. You can shoot really low scores when you do this because you can't really putt on the range, right? So you just go on to the next hole, hit the shots on the next hole. Just play through and try to beat your score every time you work on it. So that's one thing you can definitely do. Another thing you can do is you can sit there and hit the shot until you get it exactly the way you want it. So let's say the first hole, I want to hit a draw that starts down the right side of the fairway, then curves into the middle. Then I would visualize that shot, and if I blocked the first one, right, well, I would hit it again until I got it exactly the way I wanted to. And then I would imagine on the next shot, maybe the pin's on the left. Actually, let's say the pin's on the right, and I want to hit a little fade in there. Well, if I kind of hit it dead straight, then I would do it over again until I got it exactly the way I wanted to. So that's another way that you can do it. So that's what I'd recommend doing is just try to make your practice a lot more as much as you can. Now, even then, there's no pressure on it. If you don't do well, you just roll over another golf ball and you hit another one. It's a perfect lie. You still can't expect it to be as good as it would be on the course or your course play to be as good as what you're on the range, but it is a way to kind of help you implement that a little bit better. So Patrick Wise says, hi, Q, what is the best way to start your downswing? Should I feel your weight shift towards the left foot? Yes, exactly. So basically, technically, the downswing starts when the club switches directions. But what we want to have there is before I reach the very, very top of my swing, I want to have a little bit of momentum moving forward in just before the downswing starts. Get some pressure in that lead foot, so that way you can kind of lead with your lower body. Get the hips moving, get the shoulders moving, get those pieces moving earlier. So yes, I would try to get some pressure in that lead foot to get the feeling of starting the downswing. So Daniel A says, Clay says the focus should be on the left hand snapping the grip off rather than the right hand releasing the club. Thoughts? Yes. So when you're coming through contact here, your right hand is letting go, essentially. Your right hand, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but the right hand is essentially letting go. Like I said, like I was talking about earlier, you want to have the sensation that you're like you're throwing a ball sidearm toward the target. That's the sensation that you want to have. So here you can see I've got my right hand bent back. That would be the club lagging, right? Right hand still bent back. And now I'm starting to get to about right here, where I'm in front of my trail leg, that's when I'm going to start releasing that. And then at impact, I'm feeling like I'm letting go, essentially, with that right hand. Well, as I'm letting go, something has got to hold on to the club, right? And that force has to be going into the handle to make that happen. And that's being essentially transferred to that lead hand. So it should feel like, because you're letting go and speeding up the club, because you're throwing it through contact, you're going to feel like you're popping this grip off the club with that lead hand. That's going to be mostly in these first three fingers, the pinky, ring, and middle finger. That's kind of the feeling that you're going to have with the speed, with all the speed that you're generating as you're coming through contact. Because the force of the club head is going out that way, and you've got to apply a force to go in this direction in order to keep that club from coming out of your hand, or vice versa, right? So that's what that feeling is going to be. That popping of the grip part is that force that's necessary to put into the handle from all the speed that you generated with that club head. So like I said, you're feeling like you're throwing this club with the right hand in this area, right? And then with that left hand, it takes over, and it's pulling it with all that force and speed that you put into it. It's pulling. It's going to feel like you're popping that grip off of there as you're coming through. You may have seen some videos on the website. We've even seen players like Freddie Couples, Phil Mickelson, Vijay Singh, where it actually looks like their trail hand is off of the club as they're coming through contact. You've seen pictures where it's almost completely off of the club as they're coming through. That's because they've thrown it as they've come in through contact, and that's how they've been able to get some good speed. So yeah. All right, so we got a couple minutes left. If you got any further questions, go ahead and post them on there. If not, we'll wrap it up for today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you got more questions, go ahead and post them on here. Probably take one more question before we wrap it up for today. If you got one before for the next minute here, give you another minute to post one. Robbie G says, what does Dai Gan mean? I have no idea. Dai Gan. I don't know. Say it in a sentence. Was that a ping driver you just had in your hand? No, it wasn't. That's my old Callaway Epic driver. I have my ping drivers in my golf bag in my truck. Robbie, I'll give you a minute here to ask to use that word in a sentence. Dagon. I have no idea. Doggone? I've heard it. Doggone. Clay says doggone good. He's probably saying doggone good, like it's really darn good. I'm guessing instead of cussing, he says doggone good. Keeps it PG. All right. Thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time.